Gloria Strode, and welcome to Straightforward. Today I have my great friend, the legendary journalist, Richard Hyatt. Welcome back, Richard.
It's been a long time.
It has. You were actually one of my inaugural guests, and we are now in our 4th season. And then our biggest adventure was you allowed me to use your credibility, and we went into the Pulaski State Prison and did an interview with the warden, which is the women's prison.
I always thought that you had the inside information about the prison.
Well, we actually had a mutual friend of ours, former Mayor Jim Wetherington, who was also the Commissioner of Corrections, and he kind of vouched for us.
I think he did.
Yeah, but you already had that reputation because you actually experienced sitting in on an execution before. So the Department of Corrections, they were kind of familiar with the Richard Hyatt.
Well, I did two executions, and I never forgotten those moments.
Yeah, and that was when you were a journalist with Columbus
Ledger
Inquirer.
Mm-hmm.
What a lot of the new people in the community don't know is that the Ledger the Ledger Inquirer was actually 2 separate papers when you first came to town.
Right, I was with the morning paper. That was the Inquirer, and we really didn't like those Ledger people.
Oh, really? So it was kind of like 2 different teams just in that one historic building.
We were in the same building. You know, the same people wrote the paychecks, but we were in competition with each other, and it was good.
It was good.
Fun.
Yeah. So how were we so lucky? You came to Columbus to work at the newspaper. Mm-hmm. But before that, you had a great career in Atlanta. What were you doing in Atlanta?
Well, I started in the newspaper business when I was 20 years old, so more than 50 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And that was the Atlanta Times, and then I worked at sports information at Georgia Tech with the Atlanta Hawks, and then ended up with the Atlanta Constitution in the sports department,
okay,
which led me here.
Which led you to Columbus. Mm-hmm. But the other side of Richard Hyatt, just not the journalist, which is a credible journalist. I was telling someone, what happened to Walter Cronkite and those people? And you said to me, they probably don't even know who that is.
No.
But that's when journalism was a little different. What has happened? Why are we where we are today? Is it now in the news business, people want to be first instead of being accurate? What's your professional opinion on that?
One thing that's different is back in the day, there were only a few sources for news. Mm-hmm. You had the 3 network,
right,
6 o'clock newscasts. You had the local news. You had 2 newspapers. But now, you know, I can get my news right here over this phone, mm-hmm, and never have to go to one of those sources. So mm-hmm, everybody thinks they're a reporter. Everybody thinks they're a writer now.
I know, and that's the danger, because back in the day, which there are a lot of good things from back in the day, we had some standards. Do you think we've just lost that? Because, you know, we got fake news, and I mean, people do all kind of madness. But that was never heard of back when you were a young journalist.
Well, it probably was there. We just didn't label it.
Mm-hmm.
There were always people that were
shady,
making up things, maybe, but not in the credible organizations.
Right.
Those people are always on the fringes.
Right.
But times have just changed. I mean, it's a different world, and people don't even want the same kind of news that they might have wanted then. Mm-hmm. Things were more serious, and now everything's news.
Yeah.
And it may be what's going on in your street, maybe what's going on in your neighborhood, but it's all news.
Yeah.
And
so gossip is news now. Whereas
always
before, but that was like Hollywood news, you know. So now sometimes that's the main story, because when you started, everything on the top of the fold.
Everything was segmented. There was a front page, there was a local page, there was an editorial page, sports, and now it all blends together in many ways, and that happens slowly, because at some point in my career, you know, you had to fight to get a story on page 1.
Really?
And it was a lot, but now the front page is predominantly local news. And I'm talking about newspapers particularly because if people want to know about what's going on in the White House, they can get it from a multitude of sources.
Right. Including the phone.
Including the phone. But as far as local news, there's only a few sources for that.
Yeah.
And so you do what you do best, and that's report the local news about it. And it, but you know, a big change is the number of people you have on your staffs reporting.
Because technology has just really kind of pushed a lot of people out.
Well, and there's more competition for the advertising dollar. And so I think when I came here as a sports editor of the morning paper, I think it was a staff of 5 or 6, me plus 4 or 5 others. Then you had 3 or 4 people on the afternoon sports department.
Wow.
And now there's only 1 sports department.
Really?
And I'm not sure.
They're probably not even full time.
Well, they have a person based in Auburn.
Okay.
They share a person in Athens, the University of Georgia.
Okay.
And there's someone doing the high school sports, and that may be it.
Really?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about my numbers anymore.
But that's really different than when
Very
you
much.
first came, and the paper was the big thing. People bought the paper. They were waiting for it. We had boys with paper routes, and you know, it's just really changed
that was
quite
my
a bit.
first exposure. I carried the afternoon paper in Atlanta. I was in high school.
That was your first career as a newspaper man, preparing you for the long journey.
And probably made more money doing that.
Probably so. Well, what we're going to do right now, Richard, go to our sponsors, and we'll be right back. All right. We'll be right back afterward from some of our sponsors. Straightforward is brought to you by Chalk by Quincy introduces Excellence Redefined. Timepieces of the finest technology, luxury, and class with tons of style at chalklifestyle.com. Renal Associates, LLC, a team of physicians dedicated to excellent kidney care with 5 convenient locations to serve you. Stark Avenue, Columbus, Bradley Park, Columbus, Lafayette Parkway, LaGrange, East Burkhalter Avenue, Buena Vista, and Thai Cuisine, the area's only authentic Thai restaurant, open for lunch and dinner, Monday through Saturday, located in the Village Green Shopping Center on the 280 bypass in Phoenix City.
My name is Corporal Bradley Joseph Seitz.
Kate Weber.
Jerry Reed. Will Sanchez.
And I have PTSD.
I have PTSD.
I have PTSD.
Treatment has really saved my life.
Treatment has turned my life completely around.
I'm a living testimony. It helped me.
Quit beating yourself up and go ahead and help. But you know you need help, so go get it.
Walmart's reason for supporting Thurgood Marshall College Fund is simple. We like to win. And we have been given a lot of exposure to some incredible talent. And we also believe that it's a part of our responsibility to the community to give back. This is a great opportunity to do both. It's been a wonderful experience for us through the years. We've appreciated our partnership. We believe in return on investment, and we have definitely had a remarkable return.
Welcome back to Straightforward. I'm continuing my conversation with the legendary journalist, Richard Hyatt. Richard, your background is just so rich. I always remember the great story, and I don't think I could ever hear it enough, where you were down in Plains, Georgia. Of course, I love Jimmy Carter. We were so very proud, you know, when he was running for president and surprised everybody and won. Plains is just right down the road. But you had an encounter with Amy Carter and Miss Lillian, the president's mother. And you ended up being the news as a reporter. So share that with us.
Well, my assignment at that period of time, I got up in the morning, I had a company car, and I drove to Plains. That was my full-time beat. And Plains was the center of the universe. The reporters were coming from all over the world. Network TV people,
Sam
movie
Donaldson.
people.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, big names.
And you gathered outside of Jimmy Carter's house waiting for the moment when he would come out and speak. And Amy Carter was about maybe 5, 6 years old. And she was running around. And she got the idea somehow that she was going to make money off of the reporters, so she set up a lemonade stand. And it was a typical little girl kind of thing. And so I went over to get some lemonade, just and realized how much she was charging, and it
For a little girl, her prices were astronomical.
About, basically, the next day, about how the president, well, he was a candidate, president at the time, how she was gouging the reporters. And Sam Donaldson, who was the ABC News Washington correspondent at the time, he did a little piece about it too.
Right.
And the next day, a news release came out from the Carter press office condemning these horrible, mean-spirited reporters.
That was picking on the president's little,
And
the president
so
to
then
be's
all
daughter.
the other reporters, started talking to us and interviewing us about it. And right in the middle of all this, Miss Lillian Carter, the president's mother, arrived, and she knew me. She knew Sam Donaldson,
Right.
and she just blundered right through everything and
She gave
got
you
in
the
our
blues.
face. Oh,
Really?
yeah. And
Because they said she was a tough lady. They
She
said
was.
Lillian was no joke. Yeah.
and she had a temper, and she was she let us know, don't pick on my granddaughter.
Yeah.
And
you made national news.
for the moment.
Okay, so you had that fun experience down in Plains with the Carter family, Miss Lillian keeping you on your toes. You've covered some of the most influential people in the nation, but in the state of Georgia, and you've written so many books. We're almost at 20. You say we're at 19. You're
think.
keeping an accurate count. But I just like to let people know that you have written some that just so important to the history of Columbus, like about the country club and things like that, which will help people to connect the dots, to understand who the original families are, and then it's how Columbus has come to be the city that it is. So share with our audience some of those books that you've written that they might want to go out and get. Well,
at this point, there's not a true definitive history of Columbus. There's been histories that were written in the past that are outdated. But if you take all of these books that have been written by Billy Wynn, he's written several. Virginia Causey is writing one now, a former professor at CSU. But if you take all of these books and spread them out, you've got the story of Columbus.
Okay. But the ones you wrote, what you
And
focused on?
Well, I wrote a history of Fort Benning,
Okay.
Home of the Infantry. Co-authored it with a lady from Auburn, Peggy Stelflug.
Okay.
History of the Columbus Country Club, history of Green Island.
And
so
that's interesting reading.
it is, because I tell people, whether you're a member of the country club or not, you're going to find names you're familiar with and events, because so many of these things are intertwined. The same people who founded Fort Benning started the Columbus Country Club.
Okay.
A lot of those families years later started Green Island Country Club.
So you have the old money and the new money, is what we used to
blends.
say. Yeah.
And so you take all of these stories and you've got, and if you can link them all together, you've got, you do have the definitive history. And when you're writing them, I get the feeling I know these people because
Well, you do.
for that period of time that I'm working on the book, I do.
Right.
But I found then when I did some of the other books that it's the same group. It's the same group that helped consolidate the government years later. It's the same group that did so many things important for their their chapter in our history. And if you know your family histories here in town,
Yes.
a lot of them are still around.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they may not have the same last name anymore. They
Right.
married it into
Yeah,
families.
because a
but-
lot of them have married a lot of the original families there. And you can see it in their children's names. For example, you'll have Billy something something, and then it's two of those last names that
Well,
so
at
important
the
to the
newspaper,
history.
there was in the past there was a lady named Mary Margaret Byrne who was she was a women's editor at that, and if you had a question, if you were writing a story, she knew who was married to whom. She knew who used to be married to someone, and you could go to her and get this family information. And it was important when someone would pass away,
Right.
writing the obituaries. And I stayed there long enough till I realized I was that person.
You were.
There were,
You were the go-to person.
I was,
yeah.
And it's, but you have to know those things to understand
Right.
the past and understand Columbus in some
Right.
cases.
And how things actually work.
Right.
And that's why I want to encourage people that to go out and find those Richard Hyatt books. Can they order them through Amazon, or they
Most
have to
of them
reach
you
out
can
to
get on Amazon or eBay, some of the used copies. It's interesting to me to go out and see, you know, there's some of my books, and
Yeah.
I look, somebody's making a lot of money because, you know, they're not, I did one on Jimmy Carter that was $9.95 or something like that, and
Right.
I was offered a copy of it, and it was $75 or
Oh
so.
my goodness, so you are really up there. Well, what we're going to do right now is take our final break, go to our sponsors, and we'll come back right back. We'll be right back after word from some of our sponsors. Straightforward is brought to you by Warrior Outreach. Contact Command Sergeant Major Retired Sam Rhodes or Kathy Rhodes. Freedom Printing for all of your designer printing needs. Gunboat Plaza, Suite 18. Zeal in Uptown Columbus, where you can enjoy an intimate dinner atmosphere, and every entree is chef-inspired with passion. Dinner is served Monday through Saturday, 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. Howard Johnson Hotel, 1011 Veterans Parkway, Columbus. For an international dinner experience you will never forget. Zeal in Uptown Columbus. Progressive Funeral Home, family owned and operated since 1952. The George Ford legacy of high standards continues today in the compassionate and professional services provided. A touch of dignity for those who care. Progressive Funeral Home, 4235 St. Mary's Road. Trusted by generations. Best Care, transforming minds and bodies, leading the way in the latest techniques of medical weight loss and wellness. Certified in family medicine and bariatrics, Dr. Blunt is ready to assist in the transformation of your mind and body. Call today, 706-221-6477, or visit bestcarecolumbus.com. East Alabama Endocrinology, educating and caring for those living with diabetes in Alabama and Georgia. 1400 Bradley Lake Boulevard, 3320 Skyway Drive, Suite 602, Opelika. Take charge of diabetes and live your best life.
History is important because it shows where you're coming from and where you're going. Type 2 diabetes is something that runs in my family, which means I'm at risk. In fact, 1 in 3 American adults are at risk for developing type 2 diabetes. And knowing this, if I do nothing, that family history becomes my family's future. And my family is too important to me for that. Take the risk factor assessment today at AskScreenKnow.com.
Welcome back to Straightforward. I'm continuing my conversation with my great friend, the legendary journalist, Richard Hyatt. Richard, we should be somewhere making a bunch of money and with a yacht in the south of France, and I should be your publicist, and you should be writing these books, and we should be, with all this new technology, able to just sell it from the yacht. All of these people that you've written about, of course, you were saying before we went to the break, the Carter book, you sold it for $9.99. Someone's trying to sell you one for $75.
Well, they explained to me that the book was autographed, and I said, I can get that guy's autograph for less than $75.
No, you can drive down for a tank of gas. Yeah,
no, it was my autograph, not Jimmy's.
Oh, it was yours. Oh, my goodness, I thought it was the president.
The author has signed the book.
And it was you. Mm-hmm. And because you had signed your own book, and it's $75, that is really awesome. So you ventured off to something else, newspaper business, sports writer, oh my goodness, author, and now you are Muskogee, allongeorgia.com. What is this new venture?
Well, it's a new way of delivering the news. I'm doing some of the same things I've always done as far as reporting and writing, but I've had to learn a different way of living.
It's more technology.
It's a digital product. You get it's Muskogee.allongeorgia.com, and it's a multimedia production. We're going to have a weekly podcast, which will be a video-based operation. We've got music. We can do anything that you do on radio, TV, or newspapers. We can do it.
And so you all are in. You're from Muskogee, but you all are in 44 other counties.
Yes, it's a statewide operation. A man from around Statesboro area, Delvis Dodd, started it over in the small counties of Georgia, and it's expanding. We were the 41st, I believe, when we came aboard.
Really?
Last September. And in our first 6 months, we've had 1 million visits. So we're doing something right.
Yes.
And it's for an old school news guy who started with manual typewriter
and paper and pencil, which is good because at least we know you know how to read and write.
Well,
that's important.
A couple of nights ago, we were covering an important meeting of the Muskogee County School Board, and we were supposed to have a live stream that you could watch on your laptop at home. You could watch the meeting. Unfortunately, technology didn't cooperate, and I was just frozen. There's nothing I could do. And we had someone who was helping, but she couldn't
figure it
work
out
either. But I've stayed around long enough to be having those kind of problems instead of in the past when I would look around and say, "Can I borrow your pen?"
Right.
But it's exciting to me to learn these new techniques because otherwise I'd sit at home and get stale.
Right.
Stagnant.
I mean, that's what keeps your mind sharp. With the new technology, though, it makes your work a little less tedious. Because remember, we used to have to get the whiteout, the corrector type, and all of that. So now, if you're on a computer, you can move, cut, and paste.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas before, when you first started out, you got to take that piece of paper out if it was too many mistakes and just start over.
Well, there's no way in the world I want to go back to that Royal upright typewriter. But it was just the way we did business in those years. And I've been around for a lot of those changes, and it's and I'm learning these new skills is going to pay off because we're going to have a few interns coming aboard.
Really?
And they'll be looking to me to teach them how to do these things that 6 months ago I couldn't do. So
well, you can always get a crash course because with young people, they always kind of grasp because unlike us, we started with typewriters. There were no computers. They grow up with knowing all of the technology. Well, I mean, it's just second nature to them.
I have a beautiful 8-year-old child at home, and sometimes she helps me.
Understand?
With the
technology
because she's got an iPhone, she's got an iPad. and she's comfortable with all
And
of it.
she's not afraid of it, because
Nope.
that's a part of what her life experience has been, and we didn't have that. So what's the next step? Where can we can always find you, all Muskogee, all on Georgia.
Muskogee dot.
Muskogee
all on Georgia.
dot, all on Georgia.
Those dots are really
I
important.
know, because it won't go through. And so we can always see what you're writing, but you have to be on the internet. You got to have access to the internet.
But the internet is always with us.
It is, but some of your older people that started with you years ago, a lot of them, some have come along, but some have not.
Well, some people tell me, I enjoyed what you wrote in the paper last week.
Right.
Well, I hadn't been in the paper since September, October, but they just assume I'm still there because I was there for so long.
Yeah,
but,
you were.
It is, I'm reaching a different generation in some ways, and it's, but the news is still the news, no matter what.
But a journalist is not a journalist, because we have some people that pretend to be journalists that are really publicists. And that's what I'm applying for, to be your publicist, because I'm not a journalist, and there is a difference. So give us your email and how people can reach you before we run out of time.
Well, my email address is Hyatt31906@knology.net.
Okay, Hyatt31906@knology.net. So if people have information or something they might want to share, they can.
Well, you can reach me through the website,
okay.
allongeorgia.com, and it's because you can go to our site, and if you got friends in other counties, you can reach them through and find the news, and in a little while we're going to be expanding from Muskogee into Harris as well, Harris County.
And so that will be your beat as well.
Right.
Okay, well, I know we're in good hands. Definitely a credible journalist. I'm looking forward to following you somewhere on a new adventure. This is our 4th season. You were here for the inaugural. We got to do something to mark 4. So we got a plan, whatever that is. So we'll just figure that out.
I want to be here for the 25th anniversary.
Oh, okay then. Well, we really need to make a lot of money then, because we got to get fixed up before then. But I thank you so much, Richard, for your support and your friendship. And when I think of a journalist, I always think of you, and that is very refreshing. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
All right. This has been Straightforward. If you don't stand for something, you won't fall for anything. Until next time, be blessed.